The Galactic Council chamber was a monolithic construct of glass and obsidian, suspended in the void like a defiant jewel amidst the vastness of space. Its curved walls pulsed faintly with an otherworldly luminescence, as if the structure itself was alive, breathing with the slow rhythm of the universe. Delegates of countless species filled the tiers of the circular chamber, each more alien than the last, their forms a kaleidoscope of biology and evolution. Some were reptilian with scales that shimmered like molten gold, others translucent with organs that pulsated visibly, and a few were nothing more than amorphous clouds of sentient gas. Their voices melded into a cacophony of clicks, hums, and guttural growls, a polyphonic argument that threatened to shake the chamber to its foundation. At the center of it all, illuminated by a column of stark, white light, stood a human child. She couldn't have been older than 8, her small frame dwarfed by the imposing figure towering above her. The alien, a member of the Vraxian race, was an 8-foot predator cloaked in chitinous armor, its spiked limbs poised in menacing elegance. Its 4 burning eyes glared down at the child, who stared back with defiant blue irises that reflected the light like shards of ice. "Humanity has defied this council for the last time," the Vraxian delegate growled, its voice a serrated edge that sliced through the tumult. "The child stands as a symbol of their arrogance, their refusal to submit to the galactic order." The child, Mila, said nothing. Her gaze swept across the chamber, taking in the myriad of faces, each one a jury member in this farce of justice. She clenched her fists, her pale knuckles a stark contrast against the dark floor. Her father had warned her about this day, told her what would happen if Earth's defiance reached its zenith. But she hadn't expected the weight of it, the cold stares, the palpable hatred, the suffocating sense of being utterly alone. Earth was no stranger to rebellion. For centuries, it had refused to bow to the Galactic Council's decrees, rejecting their invasive technologies and laws that stripped away sovereignty. Humanity's independence was a thorn in the Council's side, a reminder that not all species could be cowed. But defiance came at a cost, and today, Mila was the price. "You misunderstand us," Mila said, her voice carrying a surprising clarity that silenced the murmurs. "We are not defying you out of arrogance. We are defying you because we remember who we are." Her words hung in the air, an electric charge that refused to dissipate. The Vraxian snarled, raising a bladed appendage. A pulse of blue energy crackled along its length, the promise of annihilation coiling within its grasp. "Your words mean nothing," it hissed. "The sentence is death." Before the words had fully registered, the energy lashed out, a blinding arc that struck Mila with unerring precision. Her small frame crumpled to the ground, lifeless, as silence swallowed the chamber whole. The delegates sat frozen, their myriad of eyes fixed on the still form of the child. For a moment, time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, something shifted. A faint vibration rippled through the chamber, so subtle it could have been dismissed as imagination. But it grew, gaining strength, a low hum that resonated in the bones. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances, their alien features betraying confusion and fear. On Earth, ancient systems buried deep beneath the planet's crust stirred to life. Forgotten engines roared with the fury of ages, and colossal structures hidden in the oceans and mountains emerged from their slumber. The skies darkened as massive fleets ascended, their hulls blackened by the weight of history. Humanity's oldest and most guarded secret, a fleet of warships from an era long before the Galactic Council, was awakening. Earth had not forgotten its past. And now, it would remind the galaxy why it had once been feared. The Galactic Council's chamber reeled in chaos, the hum that began as a whisper now a deafening crescendo. Delegates of all shapes and forms shouted over one another, their voices clashing in a storm of fear and confusion. Lights flickered erratically as the ancient systems of the chamber struggled against the growing tremor. "What is happening?" demanded the Roccan envoy, its amphibian form trembling visibly as it clung to its seat. "This is not the work of the Council. Something else is at play." The Vraxian delegate stood motionless, its 4 eyes locked onto the spot where the human child had fallen. Despite its imposing frame and weaponry, a rare unease seeped into its rigid stance. "This cannot be possible," it murmured, though it was unclear whether it spoke to itself or the chamber at large. The humans, they should not have this power. Far above, in the void of space, humanity's ancient fleet began its march. Massive starships, their hulls darkened by eons, glided into formation. Each bore symbols etched with languages forgotten by most of Earth's descendants, runes that whispered of wars long past. The vessels moved with mechanical precision, engines glowing with eerie blue light. They were old, yet their presence radiated an undeniable strength, a testament to the technology and will that had forged them. On Earth, the awakening rippled across the planet. Cities paused as the ground beneath them rumbled with power. In the subterranean bunkers of Old Geneva, where the last of the war councils once convened, General Elena Voronova stood before a glowing terminal. She was a figure of relentless resolve, her face etched with lines that spoke of decades of preparation and sacrifice. Behind her, aides and analysts scrambled to decipher the sudden activation of systems no living human had touched. "This wasn't supposed to happen," muttered one of the younger analysts, his hands hovering hesitantly over a console. The fleet was a contingency. A final line of defense. Not this. "It's no longer a contingency," Alina said, her voice steely. "The Council's actions left us no choice. They killed Mila. They killed a child to send a message. Now, we'll deliver one of our own." Her gaze turned to the live feed displaying the ancient fleet's advance. Ships poured forth from hidden bastions across the solar system, their sheer number dwarfing anything the Galactic Council could have anticipated. Alina's chest tightened, not with fear, but with a grim determination. The time for diplomacy had passed. Back in the council chamber, the tension erupted into full-blown panic. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room, projecting the advancing human fleet in stark clarity. The vessels dwarfed those of the Galactic Council's own armada, their designs unfamiliar yet ominously efficient. "We must act," screeched the Thurian delegate, its many eyes darting frantically. "Deploy the fleets. Destroy them before they reach our borders." The Vraxian delegate slammed its bladed appendage into the floor, the sound reverberating through the chamber. "Fools! Do you think they will stop if we fire first? They have awakened something we do not understand." "Then what do you propose?" An insectoid envoy chittered, its mandibles clicking with agitation. "We cannot allow this barbarism to go unanswered." Meanwhile, on one of the lead human vessels, a hulking dreadnought named Erebus, Commander Elias Graves surveyed the fleet's progress. The bridge was a hive of activity, officers and crew moving with a precision honed through years of training. Despite the magnitude of their mission, an air of calm pervaded the room. "Report," Elias said, his voice measured but firm. "All ships are maintaining formation," replied his second-in-command, a sharp-eyed woman named Lieutenant Kara Lynn. "Weapons systems are online. Shields at full capacity. The Council's outer patrols have begun mobilizing, but they're scattered." Elias nodded, his gaze fixed on the holographic map before him. "They'll consolidate soon enough. We need to reach their inner territories before they can mount a coordinated defense." Kara hesitated, then spoke in a lower tone. "Do you think they'll listen? When the time comes to negotiate?" Elias's jaw tightened. Negotiation wasn't their intent when they killed a child to make a point. But if they're smart, they'll realize this fleet isn't just a weapon. It's a warning. The bridge fell silent for a moment, save for the hum of the ship's systems. Outside the viewport, the expanse of space stretched infinite and unyielding, a stage for what was to come. As the human fleet pressed on, the Galactic Council scrambled to respond. Ancient alliances were invoked, fleets summoned, and contingency plans unearthed. But beneath the chaos, a chilling realization dawned upon the delegates. Humanity was no longer the rogue upstart they had dismissed. They had underestimated Earth, and now, they faced the wrath of a species that had never truly forgotten its power. The Galactic Council's primary fleet awaited humanity's approach near the star system of Firaxis, its sleek ships forming an impenetrable wall of shimmering metal and light. Every vessel, from massive dreadnoughts to nimble interceptors, was positioned with ruthless precision. Thousands of years of galactic dominance had honed their tactics, and the Council's admirals were confident in their strength. Yet, a shadow of uncertainty lingered, unspoken but palpable. The human fleet surged into view, their arrival like a thunderstorm rolling across the stars. The ships moved as one, their dark hulls absorbing the light of nearby stars, their formation unyielding. At the heart of the fleet, Erebus led the charge, its ancient design a stark contrast to the Council's polished vessels. Unlike the cold gleam of the Council's ships, humanity's fleet radiated a raw, almost primal energy. On the bridge of Erebus, Commander Elias Graves stood resolute. The tension in the room was tangible as officers relayed updates and data streams scrolled across holographic displays. The fleet had reached the point of no return. "Open a channel to the Council flagship," Elias ordered. His voice carried the weight of the moment, steady but sharp. The communication screen flickered to life, revealing the face of Admiral Sivra, a luminescent being of the Eldrian species. Her translucent form glowed with the soft hues of a distant nebula, but her expression was anything but serene. "Commander Graves," she began, her voice melodic yet laced with steel. "You come to the heart of the Council's domain, bearing arms and defiance. Do you truly believe you can survive this affront?" Elias met her gaze, unflinching. "Survival isn't the question, Admiral. The question is whether the Council can withstand the consequences of its own arrogance. You killed a child to make a statement. Now we're here to make one of our own." Sivra's luminous eyes narrowed. "This fleet is a relic, a vestige of a forgotten past. Your defiance is misguided, Commander. Stand down, and perhaps mercy will be granted." Elias leaned forward, his voice lowering to a measured intensity. "Mercy? From those who slaughter innocents to preserve their power? No, Admiral. The time for mercy has passed." The channel cut, and for a moment, silence enveloped the bridge. Then, the first volley was fired. The battle erupted with a ferocity that shook the void itself. Streams of energy lanced across the battlefield, colliding with shields and hulls in bursts of light. The human fleet, though outnumbered, fought with an unrelenting ferocity, their ancient ships wielding weapons the Council had never encountered. Massive beams of concentrated energy carved through the Council's formations, while swarms of automated drones overwhelmed their defenses. But the Council was not without its own strengths. Their ships moved with calculated precision, executing maneuvers that forced humanity's fleet into tight corridors of fire. Explosions rippled across the human ranks as ships were torn apart, their sacrifices slowing the Council's advance. On the surface of Firaxis Prime, General Alina Voronova coordinated ground operations with equal fervor. The planet cities were battlegrounds, human resistance fighters clashing with the Council's ground forces. Alina led from the front, her voice cutting through the chaos as she rallied her troops. "Hold the line," she shouted, her weapon blazing. "If we fall here, we fall everywhere." Back in space, aboard Erebus, the battle reached its breaking point. The ship's shields were failing, its hull groaning under the relentless assault. Elias knew the moment of decision had arrived. He turned to Kara, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Prepare the main cannon," he said. Kara hesitated. "The main cannon? Commander, that system hasn't been tested in centuries. We don't even know if it will." "It will," Elias interrupted, his gaze unwavering. "It has to." The cannon, a weapon of unimaginable power, was the heart of Erebus. Ancient and enigmatic, it had been humanity's trump card in wars long forgotten. As it powered up, the ship's core glowed with an intense blue light, a beacon of defiance. The Council fleet surged forward, sensing the human lines collapse. But before they could deliver the final blow, Erebus unleashed its fury. A beam of pure energy erupted from the cannon, slicing through the void with unerring precision. Ships disintegrated in its path, their remains scattering like ashes in the wind. The Council's formation shattered, their forces thrown into disarray. Admiral Sivra watched in horror as her fleet faltered. The realization dawned upon her. This was no mere rebellion. This was retribution. With their ranks broken, the Council ships began to retreat. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, held its ground. On the bridge of Erebus, Elias allowed himself a moment of relief. The battle was won, But the war was far from over. Back on Earth, the activation of the ancient fleet had awakened something deeper within humanity. Across the planet, people stood united, their resolve steeled by the sacrifices made. They had faced annihilation and emerged stronger. As the dust settled, Alina addressed the remnants of the Council's leadership. Her words were firm, her gaze unyielding. You sought to break us. Instead, you've reminded us of who we are. We are not your subjects. We are humanity. And we will not be forgotten. The Council, humbled and fractured, withdrew to reconsider its place in the galaxy. Humanity, having reclaimed its legacy, stood ready to face whatever came next. For the first time in centuries, the stars no longer seemed so distant.